This is The Flower of Freedom by Deborah J. Reeves. All rights to both the book and presentation are reserved. We're at chapter 70. It's called Game On. Just a heads up, hockey is a tough game, and people get hurt while playing it. Let's begin once you've taken your seat. Chapter 70, Game On. Hans had never been in an arena like this. It had a strange smell. No one stopped him or asked for a ticket. The place was almost empty, it seemed. On a notice board, there was a tournament schedule printed in German. At least he was in a civilized place, Hans thought. At 5 o'clock that day, there was a game in the ongoing tournament. One team from Zurich was playing another from Zurich. Hans started climbing the stairs. One thing he had learned is that people seldom look up. They look from side to side when they are searching, and they often look down, but if they look up at all, it's only a cursory glance, because they do not expect to find things above them. They believe in gravity, but they do not seem to believe in its opposite. Hans kept climbing to the top level of the seating. He had a wonderful view of the entire ice surface. He zipped up his ski jacket again, and he put on his gloves. It was cold in there. He did not have long to wait before he saw his son, blonde hair flying, gliding across the ice in long, smooth strokes. The kid was in his element. He was like a young god surrounded by far lesser beings. He was dressed in the uniform of a hockey player, and they must have struggled to find a team shirt that would fit him. The others on his team seemed so small next to the young man. Standing on his skates, he seemed like a giant. When the opposing team came onto the ice to warm up, they noticed his son. Soon the coaches were at mid-ice, arguing. He heard one coach bellow in German, "We came to have you admit that you were unable to man a team." "No such luck, coach. No matter how dirty you play, we will form a team and defeat you." Then the guy in the black and white striped shirt that Hans assumed was a referee skated up to the irate men. He listened to both yelling men, and he read a portion of the book that the second coach was stabbing with his finger. He turned to the first man and said, "That's it. The rule book states that where there are 2 or more players are injured, a team is authorized to enlist help that is not on their roster. Get ready to play. I drop the puck in 10 minutes. The teams kept skating around. Then they started to use pucks and sticks. Bertie's skill was obvious. Even from where Hans saw it, he could see that the boy that was happy. The cold air and the exhilaration of speed he built up on his skates seemed to expand the smile on his face. For the first time in his whole life, Hans experienced a feeling of his sense of self expanding. It expanded like a giant bubble that went from where he sat at the top of the arena all the way down to the ice where it enveloped the boy. "What is this flight of fancy?" he thought. But it did not go away. It just kept getting stronger. For the first time in Hans' life, someone else's life was as important to him as his own. He suddenly knew this boy was his, and he would die for this boy. The opposing team was not happy. They skated as though they were depressed. They had believed that they had won the tournament because the other side could not muster a team. They did not expect this turn of events. The team that included Bertie seemed to be reacting in the opposite manner. Suddenly they felt strong and hopeful. It wasn't long before the game began. Hans could tell that Bertie did not speak German, because the boy who had gotten out of the car with him had to keep telling him what the coach or the referee was saying. Bertie would nod and smile. In the stands, Bertie seemed to have his own cheering section of adoring friends who kept shouting that he could do it. As the game was about to begin, the translator boy pushed Bertie into the circle at the middle of the ice, and Bertie shook his head. The boy nodded, indicating that yes, that is where he should stand. The referee spoke to both boys in German, and within moments he dropped the black puck. With lightning reflexes, Bertie used his stick to slap the puck to the translator boy, who headed to the end of the arena toward a low rectangular net thing. Bertie used his stick to slap the puck past the man defending the net, and a buzzer went off declaring a goal had been scored. The cheering party in the seats jumped up and down and screamed and hugged one another. The opposing team pounded their sticks on the ice and spat with disgust. Hans thought ice hockey was the best sport he'd ever seen. It was his new favorite. As the game went on, it got rough. The other team seemed to have put a target on Bertie's back. They were clearly after him, but after playing in a few games against this opposition, Bertie's teammates seemed to be able to anticipate their moves. Bertie scored 3 more goals in quick succession, and no one in the arena could take their eyes off him. The other boys seemed to run interference for Bertie, and when he had the puck, the boy was a wizard on skates. More often than not, the dirty blows were a fraction of a second too late to catch him on a tendon, at the back of his heel, or across his shin. Many teammates even took the blows for him. The opposition played dirty, and their coach egged them on. Hans did not know that the game was divided into quarters, so he thought the game might be over when the boys left the ice for the first time. "He won," an inner voice sang from somewhere in the back of his mind. But then he noticed that everyone was still in their seats, waiting for the game to restart. The girl in the loud ski jacket and her friend the blonde left for a few minutes, and they brought back beverages for the 2 older men and all their friends. Hans knew that he had never been part of such a group. He was watching the group of people who cared about each other. For a moment he thought that his son was very lucky. He had achieved something that Hans had never achieved in civilian life. And why not? He grumbled inwardly. The boy is a god. They're very fortunate to have him among them. That's the end of chapter 70. Game on. The next chapter is called Game Over, and I need to give you a warning now of violence. Thank you for coming. You can skip the next chapter if you need to. My name's Deborah. Thanks for coming.